Ever been on like a super crowded bus after a long day, and then someone just kind of lightens the mood? And I don't mean like cracking jokes or anything, but just like with their energy, their kindness. It's
Yeah.
like a glimpse into emotional intelligence in action.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today with Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence.
Yeah.
This book makes this really bold claim
Okay.
that EQ, emotional intelligence, can actually matter even more than IQ.
It's a fascinating challenge, isn't it? To like our conventional view of intelligence.
Totally.
We're so conditioned to put IQ on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But Goleman, he makes this really compelling argument that our emotions play a far greater role in our successes in life,
Yeah.
our happiness.
Yeah. Basically everything.
Really the whole shebang.
I love that. Okay, so the book dives right into like the nitty-gritty, the science behind it all,
Yeah. Wow.
talking about how our brains actually process emotions.
Yeah, and it all starts with this really fascinating interplay between two key parts of our brain, the amygdala and the neocortex. So think of the amygdala as our brain's like security guard,
Okay.
constantly on the lookout for threats. It's the part that triggers our fight or flight response.
Gotcha.
And then we've got the neocortex, which is more like the thoughtful decision maker,
Okay.
trying to make sense of everything calmly and rationally.
Right. So it's like the amygdala is freaking out and the neocortex is trying to be like, hold on, let's think about this.
Exactly. And sometimes they don't exactly see eye to eye. Like in the book, Goleman talks about this funny anecdote where he wakes up totally panicked, convinced his ceiling is about to cave in.
Oh, no.
Turns out it was just his amygdala misinterpreting a sound.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I've totally been there. Like that split second of freak out before you realize it's just like the neighbor's dog or something.
It's like our emotional alarms are wired to just go off even if it's a false alarm.
Yeah, for no reason.
Right. And that's because of something called fear pathways.
Okay.
Essentially, the amygdala can react before the neocortex even processes what's happening.
Oh,
So imagine a child facing a stressful situation at school.
right.
Their amygdala might trigger a tantrum
Yeah.
or even a freeze response
Oh, wow.
before they can even think about what's happening.
So they're not even processing, they're just reacting.
Precisely. And that's why understanding these brain mechanisms is so crucial,
Totally.
especially for parents, educators, anyone who works with kids.
Because if we can teach kids how to recognize and manage their emotions,
Yes.
then they're better equipped to deal with those challenges.
Exactly. It's about giving them the tools to hit that pause button,
Yeah.
giving their thinking brain a chance to catch up
Right.
and choose a more thoughtful response.
It's not that IQ isn't important.
Right.
It's that there's this whole other layer.
Exactly.
This emotional intelligence, which might be even more important in the long run.
Absolutely. And that's where Goleman's 5 components of EQ come in.
Okay, yeah.
They're like the building blocks.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
Perfect. So let's take those one by one, starting with self-awareness.
Okay.
What does it actually mean to be emotionally self-aware?
So at its core, it's about being able to recognize and understand your emotions as they're happening.
Okay.
Kind of like an inner radar system tuned into how you're feeling. Stressed, joyful, frustrated.
So it's not just knowing what you're feeling, but like why you're feeling it. Right?
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting because some people really struggle with this.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Like, imagine not even being able to identify what you're feeling,
Yeah.
let alone trying to explain it to someone else.
It's like having all those feelings trapped inside
Right.
and no way to express them.
Exactly.
That's got to be tough in relationship.
For sure. And that actually leads us right into the next pillar of EQ, self-regulation.
Okay.
So once you're aware of your emotions, the next step is learning how to manage them.
It's like hitting that pause button we were talking about, not letting our emotions totally control us.
Right. Exactly. And you know, it's a great example of this? The marshmallow experiment.
Oh, yeah.
They gave a bunch of kids a choice. One marshmallow now, or wait and get two later.
I've heard about this. It's amazing how the kids who could wait ended up doing better later in life.
I know. It's wild, right? The kids who resisted that immediate gratification, they showed more self-control.
Yeah.
And that translated into greater success in life, right? Like better grades, stronger relationships.
Really?
Yeah, even better health.
Wow, that's incredible. It really highlights the importance of delayed gratification.
Absolutely. It's really powerful. But it also shows that self-regulation isn't just about willpower, you know?
Yeah.
It's about having strategies to kind of soothe yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Not suppressing those negative emotions, but like finding healthy ways to deal with them.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that inner drive is connected to the next component of EQ motivation.
So it's not just about having goals, but also that passion that pushes you to achieve them?
Exactly. Goleman talks about this fascinating link between optimism, hope, and achievement.
Okay.
Students who have a more optimistic outlook tend to do better academically because they believe in their ability to succeed.
That makes sense. If you think you can do something, you're more likely to put in the effort.
Right, so that positive mindset fuels their effort,
Mm-hmm.
helps them persevere through challenges.
Totally. But what about understanding other people's emotions? That feels like a whole other thing.
Absolutely. That's empathy, one of the most crucial aspects of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
It's the ability to step into someone else's shoes, to understand their perspective, share their feelings.
It's about connecting with others on a deeper level, right? Trying to see the world through their eyes.
Exactly. Goleman talks about this Aikido master who's riding a train.
Okay.
And there's this drunk guy who's like terrorizing the passengers. But instead of confronting the guy aggressively, he uses empathy
Wow.
and emotional influence to like calm him down.
It's amazing how sometimes empathy can be way more effective than aggression.
Right. So that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, social skills.
Okay.
It's about putting all of it together, the self-awareness, the self-regulation, the motivation, the empathy.
Like the outward expression of EQ.
Exactly. Using those skills to navigate your interactions with others effectively, to be a good communicator,
A good listener.
build strong relationships.
Gotcha. So it's like all these pieces build upon each other.
Exactly.
So we've got these 5 pillars of EQ, right?
Right.
And it sounds like they all kind of work together, like pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah, definitely.
But what happens if some of those pieces are missing? Like, what are the real-world consequences of low EQ?
That's such an important question.
Yeah.
And Goleman really gets into it. You know, low EQ can pop up anywhere, really.
Yeah, well, I bet.
From relationships to struggles at work, even our physical and mental health.
Wow. The book talks about how low EQ can fuel those like vicious cycles you see in marriages, the criticism, the
Yeah.
contempt.
Absolutely. When we don't have that self-awareness,
Yeah.
you know, to understand our own emotions, let alone empathy for our partner's feelings,
Right.
communication can really shut down.
It's like you're speaking different languages almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We end up blaming, criticizing, or just totally shutting down,
Yeah.
which just leads to more conflict.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Totally.
And it's not just romantic relationships, is it?
Oh, no, not at all.
Like low EQ can really mess things up at work too.
Absolutely. Imagine, like, you're an engineer, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you're presenting your work, something you've poured your heart into,
Yeah.
and the VP just tears it apart.
Oof.
No empathy, just harsh criticism.
Brutal.
That can be devastating. Goleman talks about how important constructive criticism is,
Okay.
like feedback that acknowledges someone's effort,
Right.
but also guides them to do better next time.
So it's a balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because those emotional outbursts, they can really hurt morale
Totally.
and just tank productivity.
It's like poisoning the well.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just our emotional well-being too.
Right.
Like the book even talks about a link between chronic anger and heart disease.
That's scary.
It's true. More and more research is showing that chronic stress, anger, anxiety
Yeah.
takes a toll on our bodies.
Makes you think twice about flying off the handle.
Right. But on the flip side, strong social support can actually protect us,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
which makes sense, right? Having people there for you,
Totally.
that often goes hand in hand with higher EQ.
So it's like having those good relationships is a buffer against all the stress.
Exactly. So it's not all about like personal happiness, you know.
Right.
Higher EQ can actually help build a healthier society overall.
It's like a ripple effect.
Precisely. And you know what's concerning? Goleman talks about this trend of rising depression and anxiety in young people.
It's true. You see it everywhere.
It makes you wonder if we're just not giving them the emotional skills to deal with, well, everything.
Yeah. It's like we focus so much on academics, you know, all the facts and figures.
Yeah.
That we forgot about these basic human skills.
Which is such a shame because emotional intelligence, it can be learned.
Okay. That's good to know. So it's not a lost cause.
Not at all.
It's about finding ways to nurture it.
Exactly. And Goleman talks about how crucial those early childhood experiences are.
Yeah, I bet.
Parents can be such powerful emotional coaches.
Right. Like guiding their kids' emotional development.
Precisely. And speaking of guidance, remember those emotional literacy programs we talked about?
Oh, yeah. Like that self-science curriculum at the Nueva Learning Center. That one was fascinating.
It's amazing. They really focus on teaching kids the language of emotions,
Oh, that's interesting.
like giving them the words to express how they feel.
Okay.
Healthy ways to manage those emotions, it's like they're becoming fluent in a whole new language.
I love that.
And then there's the New Haven Schools approach. They're integrating social-emotional learning right into the school day,
Wow, so it's not just like an extra thing.
right? It's part of the everyday routine. These programs show that it's possible to create learning environments that nurture emotional intelligence.
That's so encouraging.
And the benefits, they go way beyond the classroom.
Totally.
You're talking about stronger relationships, doing better in school, just a greater sense of well-being.
It's really remarkable. So we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from the science of emotions to the real-world impact of EQ and how to cultivate it.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. And if there's one big takeaway, one thing to remember,
What would that be?
it's that emotional intelligence matters. It's not just some fluffy concept.
Right.
It's a skill, something we can all develop and strengthen.
Absolutely. And it deserves so much more attention in our homes, our schools, our workplaces.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, building a healthier, more compassionate, more successful world, it all starts with us. It starts with understanding and harnessing the power of emotional intelligence.